yes, I use the word optimizing, the function of our so-called autonomic nervous system, that aspect of our nervous system that's humming in the background all the time. It's operating unconsciously to regulate our sleep-wake cycles. It's regulating how well or poorly we react to things. It's regulating how much dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, acetylcholine we're producing. All of this stuff is humming in the background and sets the stage for all the conscious work that we might put to, for instance, trying to understand what our life narrative is, what our unconscious mind is doing, what sorts of defenses it might be producing. All of the sort of high level and directed work that we're going to talk about a little bit later exists on a background of autonomic function, of neurotransmitter production, of hormone production, not just testosterone and estrogen, but things like cortisol, prolactin, and on and on. So it's important to understand that if our goal is to be in the best possible mood given our life circumstances and to have the best possible mental health given our life circumstances, and to improve our mood and mental health consistently over time, that we have to pay attention to what I'm referring to here as the big six, or the 6 pillars of mental health. And those are, just to list them off, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail: sleep, sunlight, although I'd like to modify sunlight because based on some new data that just came out a couple of weeks ago, I'd like to now make that second pillar not sunlight, but light/dark. So we could even just think about it as light, when and how much light you get. But what you'll soon learn is that how much dark you get is also extremely important. So we've got sleep, light, movement is the third, nutrition, social connection, and stress control. Now, these are topics that I've spoken about extensively on previous Huberman Lab podcast episodes. So I don't want to go into a deep dive of each of these 6 pillars right now, but I am going to just give you a few highlights of each. And then, of course, we will provide links in the show note captions for which you can go on the deep dive if you like. And I also would like to mention that if you ever have questions about specific protocols or tools, and you're seeking those out, or previous episodes, or specific timestamps of previous episodes of this podcast, you can go to our newly revamped hubermanlab.com website and put any topic of interest or even several topics of interest into the search function, and it will take you to the very specific timestamps and other resources that provide information on those topics. So I'm going to go into a few of the key bullet points about each of the 6 pillars, or what I also refer to as the big 6 of self-care and mental health. Again, this is a necessary list, but is not sufficient. Again, necessary to do these things every 24 hours, indeed, every 24 hours, if you want to have the best possible mood and mental health. But it is not sufficient. That means you still need to do some of the other things that we're going to talk about in terms of directed approaches at improving mood and mental health if you are to, quote unquote, optimize your mood and mental health, or if you are, let's just say, trying to constantly improve your mood and mental health. But these are the necessary but not sufficient pillars of mental health. So under the heading of sleep, it's safe to say that most people need between 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Some people can get away with 5. Some people need as much as 9 or 10. Certainly growing kids, babies, teenagers, and those that are suffering from some sort of illness are going to need more, as much as 9, 10, maybe even 12 hours of sleep per night. However, most people do well to get somewhere between 6 and 8 hours of sleep per night. You're just going to have to experiment and figure out what's best for you. Now, one thing I heard recently, so I can't claim this as an original idea, but that I think is a really good way to think about sleep, is that sleep